Hello, I'm Annabel Cartwright from the School of Physics and Astronomy at Cardiff University. I've been teaching a course called Synoptic Physics for 8 years now, and over the years I've tried lots of different ways of doing it, and I think it's now working very, very well. So I'm just going to pass on some of my recommendations for how to do this kind of course. So this course is a weekly challenge. Every week they do a different problem in groups of 4. And at the end of each live session, they have to submit a properly structured report. It all has to be formatted, etc. And this pressure on them, the time pressure and lots to do, it means they work well as a team, they soon get up and running, and they get all those useful employability skills along the way. It also, because they love it so much, and it has a really good psychological effect on them. Thoughts on teams, always a difficult thing with students, but I find that 4 is the perfect number of people to have in a team. Okay, we always have to have like the odd 3 and 5, but they're never quite as good. I allow the students to nominate themselves to teams of 4 if they want to do so, but everyone else has to be allocated by me, and so they're in teams of people they don't know. I have come to the conclusion that the best thing is to allocate them on the basis of their academic performance in the previous year, roughly. So students are at a similar level, and this means you don't get shy students who won't contribute or dominant students who boss everyone around. Only roughly. I don't put them, absolutely allocated on the basis of order of academic achievement, but I wouldn't put a student with a 45% average in with a bunch of 70%, and equally if I've got 3 weak students, I don't put a really strong student in with them. That doesn't work. You want another one at similar sort of level, and then they really start working well and fly. I also just take care about gender. I don't put a single woman in with a lot of men. I don't put a single man in a female team. It just avoids feelings of awkwardness. So you don't want one person dominating the team from the word go. But another thing that helps to stop that is to actually allocate the leader of the team for the first 4 weeks. So each person has a turn at being the leader of the group. This is very successful, and even students who never thought that they'd actually be able to do this, they say that it gives them that confidence that they have a chance to work as the team leader, even if they then don't want to do it afterwards, and it helps them to realise what's involved. It stops this student taking charge problem. And actually, at the end of the course, we always ask the students to reflect, and you can actually measure the effect this has on particularly the female students, who I'm always looking out for in the minority. And if we look at the reflective comments and count how many times they use a word such as confident or confidently, it's more than twice as frequently in a female's statement than in a male's statement. And similarly, leadership is 50% more often mentioned positively by a student than a female student than a male student. So this is good. It helps them to learn a new skill, but it also makes the whole thing work much better. I haven't got time to talk to in detail, but a very positive new innovation in this course is to get them to make a video over the term. They love doing that as well. It's very successful, and huge professionalism and creativity in doing this. You have to make sure you just give them a fairly tight brief so they know what you're expecting from them. Otherwise they just waffle and they can't decide what to do. But in this case, we tell them they need to demonstrate the Schlieren effect, they need to explain how it works, and it's got to be no longer than this, and then you get puppets, you get cartoons, you get all sorts of things. Fantastic. Very, very enjoyable, and there's none of the usual problem of students not turning up, because they love doing it, they love working together to do this. And you don't have to teach them how to make a video, they know how to do that. So finally, the main point about making a course like this work is you have to have effective, exciting and challenging problems that the students just can't help themselves. They're interested, they want to know how to solve it. And because they know that you've set it personally and you know that they can do it, they're sort of amazed even at the beginning. They can't believe that you're asking them to do this, but they know that I wouldn't be asking them to do it if they couldn't. So they set about it and they get involved and engaged and have a go. A really strong way of getting them involved is to have a personal connection. So if you've got a former student you can invite in to talk about something, that's perfect. In this slide I've got a former student who now works for Airbus, and he comes in and introduces a problem about lightning striking an aeroplane. That makes the students able to connect with somebody who actually does this for a living and it makes them feel more like a physicist and less like a student. They've actually said that. So that's a really strong thing. And having a member of staff as well involved is something that works very well. For the problem itself, it really needs to have several components that students can be working on in parallel. Don't have a problem where it's just a sequential thing. You can't get on to the next step until you've done the first step. In this problem, there are several different things that students need to be working on: the size of the aeroplane, the thermal and electrical properties of copper and aluminium, the properties of lightning. So there are lots of different separate bits of research that students can be doing and amalgamating in their document. And again, and another thing, of course, is then you're crossing over. You're not just talking about electricity, you're also talking about thermal properties. So it's not just one chunk of physics. So that's a really good way of doing things, and they love the fact that these are real life problems and you cannot find them in a textbook. They mention that. They're almost amazed that such problems exist. Oops, sorry. Yeah. If you can't have a personal connection, but you want to set a problem in, for example, optics, and you're thinking, how can I make that exciting and engaging? Choose the application that they are going to be entranced by. And in this case, for my optics problem, I set them a problem around motion capture from computer games and movie special effects. They're immediately much more engaged than if you just set them a problem about optics. And the other thing I think is really effective is to get them to use real data sheets. Get them to go and research the properties of the LEDs that you're going to use in your design and include the cost. That's another bit of work that you can set as a separate part of the problem, so it gives another person something to work on. If they're going to design something with 40 LEDs as opposed to 30, get them to think about what difference that means in terms of the actual prime cost of the thing they're making. They like that relationship with the real world. So, for example, this year in my problems, I had weekly problems. We actually had 9 in total. And the aircraft lightning strike problem is always very popular because it's as I said, it's an exciting, interesting problem with lots of different bits of physics. And what's nice about it, it has a surprising answer. That's always interesting when students work something out and they can't quite believe it. And then you encourage them to think, well, do you believe your own answer? If you've worked it out and you believe your parameters and you believe your equations and that's your answer, that's it. It is surprising. So that's a popular one. Designing a portable vaccine refrigerator was very popular this year, very topical, of course. And so that was very popular, and they liked the fact they were looking at an application that was particularly aimed at third world countries. And then the other one that really got sort of a buzz going was designing a coil for an MRI scanner. And I asked them this year that it should be big enough to accommodate the Captain of Wales, Alan Wynne-Jones, and optimised for cost. Again, bringing the cost, I got the data sheets and costs from Supercon, the people who provide the superconducting wire. And that was something you can't Google. Make sure there are things you can't Google. You can't Google how wide is Alan Wynne-Jones. You have to work that out or estimate it. So I would just conclude by saying that teamwork modules really benefit from having these many small assignments repetitively, rather than just one large thing you work at all semester. This repetition and learning from failure, because they usually have one problem that they just can't quite get the hang of, and learning from that and talking to them about it is really powerful. They will say to you, you know what, we got bogged down going in the wrong direction. We should have listened to this chap. He knew what we should have done. That sort of thing, they really learn from that. Allocating the teams based on friendship, that works well. It helps to make, you want this to be a positive experience, and it really is how I do it. And allocating this leadership role really helps them to learn. And you can't get away from it, I'm afraid. You must research interesting and worthwhile problems that students then feel really proud of because they've solved them. And you must find problems where you can't Google the answer, and then you must keep an eye on them every year to make sure that that's still true. And at the end of the day, you'll have a fantastic module that students learn so much from, and it's fun to teach. So good luck.